Trevor's at the gym again, 4th time this week, and it's only Thursday. I'm sitting here in our empty house in Denver, staring at the divorce papers he left on the kitchen counter this morning, trying to figure out how a $45 monthly gym membership ended up costing me my entire marriage. My name is Brooklyn, I'm 32 years old, and 6 months ago I had what most people would call the perfect life. A beautiful 4-bedroom house in the suburbs, a husband who adored me, and enough money to never worry about bills. Now I'm about to lose all of it, and everyone seems to think it's exactly what I deserve. Trevor and I met 7 years ago at a mutual friend's barbecue. He wasn't the type of guy I usually went for. My exes were all confident, loud, center of attention types. Trevor was quieter, the kind of guy who brought homemade potato salad to the party and helped clean up without being asked. But there was something about the way he looked at me, like I was the only person in that backyard worth talking to. We were married within 2 years. Trevor worked as a software engineer making good money, and I had my job at the dental office doing reception. Life was comfortable. Maybe too comfortable, looking back. Trevor started gaining weight after the wedding, the way lots of men do. First, just a little, then more. By our 5th anniversary, he'd put on probably 60 pounds. I tried to be supportive at first. I'd suggest walks after dinner or pack healthier lunches for him. But Trevor would just laugh it off and say he was happy the way he was. And maybe he was, but I wasn't. Is that terrible to admit? That I was embarrassed when we'd run into people we knew and I could see them noticing how much he'd changed? My friend Madison didn't help. She was always making little comments when Trevor wasn't around. "Remember when he used to have that jawline?" she'd say, or, "At least he treats you well," like that was some kind of consolation prize for being married to someone who'd let himself go. The gym membership started as my idea. Planet Fitness was running a New Year's special, and I bought us both memberships. I framed it as something we could do together, a couples activity. Trevor seemed genuinely excited about it. He went out and bought new workout clothes and downloaded some fitness apps on his phone. The first month was actually great. We'd go together 3 times a week after work. Trevor was terrible at first, getting winded after 10 minutes on the treadmill, but he kept showing up. I was proud of him. I even posted a photo of us at the gym on Instagram with some motivational caption about couple goals. But then I started going to the morning classes without him. There was this kickboxing class at 6 a.m. that I loved, and Trevor wasn't about to wake up that early. That's where I met Damon. He taught the Thursday morning class, and honestly, he looked like he'd been carved out of marble. The kind of guy who probably counted his macros and had never eaten a carb in his life. At first it was just friendly chatting after class. Damon would give me tips on my form, compliment my progress. He made me feel seen in a way I hadn't felt in years. When he suggested I try his advanced class, I jumped at the chance. When he offered to design a personalized workout plan for me, I said yes without thinking twice. Trevor noticed I was going to the gym more often, but he didn't seem bothered by it. He was still going to his 3 sessions a week, making slow but steady progress. He'd lost maybe 15 pounds and was talking about signing up for a 5K. I should have been supportive. Instead, I found myself comparing him to Damon and all the other fit guys at the gym. "You're getting obsessed," Trevor said one night when I was packing my gym bag for the 3rd morning in a row. "Maybe take a rest day?" "Just because you don't care about your health doesn't mean I can't care about mine," I snapped back. The look on his face should have been a warning. But I was too caught up in my new routine, my new body, my new friend Damon to notice I was losing my husband. Everything changed the night of Trevor's company party. It was a fancy event at some downtown hotel, the kind where everyone dresses up and pretends to have a better time than they actually are. Trevor had bought a new suit for the occasion, and honestly, he looked good. The weight loss was starting to show, and he carried himself differently. But all I could focus on was how he still didn't look like Damon, how his stomach still pushed against his shirt buttons a little, how he got winded walking up the stairs to the ballroom. When his coworker's wife complimented him on his weight loss, I heard myself say, "Yeah, he's trying. Still a long way to go, though." Trevor went silent. His co-worker and his wife exchanged uncomfortable glances before excusing themselves. We spent the rest of the party barely speaking, Trevor introducing me to people while I scrolled through my phone, checking Damon's Instagram stories from whatever fitness competition he was at that weekend. In the car ride home, Trevor finally spoke. "Do you even like me anymore?" "What kind of question is that?" I said, not looking up from my phone. "The kind a husband asks when his wife spends more time at the gym than at home and can't stop talking about her trainer." "Damon's just a friend," I said, rolling my eyes. "Maybe if you pushed yourself harder at the gym, you'd understand what it's like to actually have fitness goals." "I've lost 23 pounds, Trevor said quietly. "I can run 2 miles without stopping. I'm the healthiest I've been in years." "Good for you," I muttered, turning the air conditioning vent toward me so I wouldn't have to smell the cologne he'd worn for the party. The same cologne I'd bought him for Christmas that he barely ever used. "You know what? Pull over," Trevor said suddenly. "What? Why?" "Just pull over, I'll get an Uber home." "Don't be dramatic." "Dramatic?" His voice cracked. "Brooklyn, I just watched my wife tell a room full of my colleagues that I'm basically a work in progress, a failed work in progress. And you think I'm being dramatic?" "I didn't say failed." "You didn't have to. Your face said it all, the way you looked at Jim's wife when she complimented me. Like she was lying, like there was nothing to compliment." I gripped the steering wheel harder. "If you're so upset, maybe use it as motivation." Trevor laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "There it is. There's the Brooklyn I've been living with for the past 4 months. Everything is about the gym. Everything is about improvement. Nothing is ever good enough." "Sorry for wanting the best for you." "No, you want the best for you? You want a husband who looks like he belongs on your Instagram feed. Well, guess what? I'm never going to be 6'2" with an 8-pack. I'm 5'9" with bad knees and a sweet tooth. And if that's not enough for you anymore..." "I never said that." "You say it every single day. Every time you come home talking about Damon's new PR. Every time you ask if I really need that second helping at dinner. Every time you buy me large shirts, even though I wear medium now because you don't want them to be too tight." I hadn't realized he'd noticed all of that. "Those shirts run small." "They don't, Brooklyn. I tried them on at the store. They fit fine. You just see me differently now. Or maybe you're seeing me clearly for the first time and you don't like what you see." We drove the rest of the way in silence so thick I could barely breathe. When we got home, Trevor headed straight for the guest room. I stood in the hallway, watching him gather his phone charger and a change of clothes. "This is ridiculous," I said. "You're really going to sleep in there because I made one comment?" He paused at the doorway, not turning around. "Remember our wedding?" The question caught me off guard. "Of course." "Remember what you said in your vows? That you loved me exactly as I was, that you didn't want to change a thing." "People say things in vows." "I meant mine," he said, finally turning to look at me. "Every word, I still do, but you, I don't think you meant any of it." He closed the door softly, and somehow that was worse than if he'd slammed it. I stood there for a long moment before heading to our bedroom alone. Instead of crying or going after him, I set my alarm for 5:30 so I wouldn't miss spin class. Madison was thrilled when I told her about the fight. We met for brunch that Sunday at this overpriced place downtown where they serve $15 avocado toast, and the mimosas cost more than a gym membership. She listened with her eyes getting wider and wider, occasionally gasping at the right moments. "Finally," she said over her third mimosa. "I was wondering when you'd wake up. You're in the best shape of your life, and he's still... Trevor." "He's trying," I said half-heartedly, pushing my egg white omelet around the plate. I'd stopped eating real eggs months ago. Damon said the yolks were basically poison. "But is trying enough? You're 32, Brooklyn. You could have anyone. Why settle?" She pulled out her phone and showed me a picture from her cousin's wedding the week before. "Look at Jessica's new boyfriend. Personal trainer, owns 3 gyms, competed in American Ninja Warrior last season." "Madison, I'm married. To someone who got winded walking up hotel stairs. Brooklyn, honey, I love you. But you need to face facts. You've evolved past Trevor. It happens. People grow at different rates. He's lost 23 pounds. In what, 4 months? At that rate, he'll be fit by the time you're 40. Do you really want to wait that long? I stared at her, something cold settling in my stomach. That's a horrible thing to say. It's an honest thing to say. There's a difference. She leaned forward, lowering her voice. Have you and Damon... No, I said quickly. Too quickly. Madison raised an eyebrow. But you've thought about it. I had. God help me, I had. Every time Damon adjusted my form, his hands on my hips or my shoulders, I felt things I hadn't felt with Trevor in years, maybe ever. The way Damon looked at me like I was already perfect but could be even better. The way he remembered every PR, every goal, every achievement. Trevor couldn't even remember which days I had spin class. It doesn't matter what I've thought about, I said finally. I'm married. To someone who sleeps in the guest room. That was one night. But it wasn't one night. Trevor stayed in the guest room the next night too, and the next. By Thursday, I found him moving more of his things in there. His phone charger, his book, his work clothes for the next day. How long are you going to do this? I asked, standing in the doorway. I don't know, he said without looking up from his laptop. How long are you going to keep comparing me to men I'll never be? You told Cheryl from accounting that I should try Damon's meal plan because it works for people who need to lose significant weight. My face flushed. She asked about your weight loss. I was trying to help. By telling my coworker I have significant weight to lose? You do! The words hung in the air between us. Trevor closed his laptop slowly, finally looking at me. There it is, the truth. You're embarrassed by me. I'm not embarrassed, I want you to be healthy. My blood pressure is perfect. My cholesterol is down 60 points. My doctor literally used the word remarkable at my last checkup. What's your definition of healthy, Brooklyn? Looking like Damon? I didn't answer because we both knew he was right. The seed was planted. Every time Trevor skipped a morning workout to sleep in, every time he suggested we skip the gym for a movie night, every time he ordered dessert at dinner, Madison's words echoed in my head. Why settle? I started staying later at the gym, grabbing smoothies with Damon after our sessions. He was full of stories about his fitness modeling days, his supplement sponsorships, his plans to open his own gym someday. He made Trevor's job in tech support sound so boring in comparison. Your husband's lucky to have someone like you pushing him, Damon said one day, his hand briefly touching my arm. Some people just don't have that internal drive, you know? I found myself complaining about Trevor more and more, how he still ate pizza on Fridays, how he'd only lost 25 pounds when he should have lost 50 by now, how he seemed content with his progress instead of pushing harder. Sounds like you've outgrown him, Damon said during one of our post-workout talks. We were sitting at the juice bar, and he'd bought my protein shake without asking. Vanilla with almond butter, exactly how I liked it. Trevor always forgot and got me chocolate. It's complicated, I said, aware that I was wearing my wedding ring on a chain around my neck instead of on my finger. I told myself it was because my fingers swelled during workouts, but that was a lie. It doesn't have to be. His hand moved closer to mine on the counter. You deserve someone who matches your energy, someone who pushes you to be your best self. Trevor supports me, I said weakly. Does he, though? When's the last time he came to one of your morning classes? When's the last time he celebrated your PRs with you? I thought about it. Trevor had stopped asking about my workouts weeks ago. When I'd excitedly told him about finally hitting my goal weight, he'd just nodded and said, "That's nice, honey," while staring at his computer screen. See, Damon said, reading my silence. A real partner would be your biggest cheerleader. If you were mine... He didn't finish the sentence, but he didn't need to. If I were his, we'd be that couple everyone stared at in the gym. The one with matching workout gear and perfect form and bodies that looked like they belonged in fitness magazines. We'd have protein shakes for breakfast and salads for lunch and never fight about whether pizza once a week was too much. "I should go," I said, but I didn't move. "Brooklyn." The way he said my name made my stomach flip. "You know this isn't just about fitness for me, right? I care about you, the real you, the woman who shows up at 6 a.m. ready to conquer the world, the woman who doesn't let anything stop her from reaching her goals." "Damon, just think about it," he said, standing up. "Think about what your life could be like with someone who really sees you." He squeezed my shoulder before walking away, leaving me sitting there with my protein shake and my guilt, and the growing certainty that my marriage was already over. That night, I looked at Trevor sitting on the couch playing some video game and felt nothing but disgust. How had I married someone so lazy, so unmotivated, so average? "I'm thinking about competing," I announced, interrupting his game. "Competing in what?" he asked, pausing to look at me. "Fitness competitions. Damon thinks I have the physique for it." "Damon thinks a lot of things," Trevor said, something sharp in his voice I'd never heard before. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing. I just think it's interesting that Damon's opinions matter more than your husband's these days." "Maybe if my husband had opinions worth listening to," I shot back. "You know what? Forget it." He unpaused his game. "Do whatever makes you happy." "That's it? That's all you have to say?" He paused the game again, setting the controller down carefully. "What do you want me to say, Brooklyn? That I think it's a bad idea? You'll do it anyway. That I'm worried about you? You'll say I'm being unsupportive. That I miss my wife? You'll tell me I'm being clingy. So now you're the victim?" "I'm not anything. I'm just tired." "Of what?" "Of feeling like I'm in competition with a 26-year-old trainer for my own wife's attention. Of watching you light up when you talk about the gym, but look at me like I'm furniture. Of pretending this is still a marriage when we're basically roommates who happen to share a mortgage." The words hung between us like a challenge. Part of me wanted to deny it, to fight back, to make him the bad guy. But another part, a tiny part I tried to ignore, knew he was right. "If you're so unhappy, why don't you leave?" I said, immediately regretting it. Trevor looked at me for a long moment. "Because I made vows. Because I keep hoping the woman I married will come back. Because I'm an idiot who still loves you even though you clearly don't love me anymore." "That's not—" "When's the last time you said it?" he interrupted. "When's the last time you said I love you and meant it? Not just as a response when I say it first, but actually looked at me and said those words because you felt them?" I opened my mouth, then closed it. I couldn't remember. "That's what I thought," he said quietly, picking up his controller again. "Go to bed, Brooklyn. You have spin class in the morning." I stood there for another minute, watching him pretend to focus on his game while his character died repeatedly. His hands were shaking slightly. 7 years of marriage, and I'd never seen his hands shake before. "Trevor, please, just go." I went upstairs and lay in our bed, staring at the ceiling. From downstairs, I could hear the sound of the TV switching off, then nothing. He didn't come to bed that night either. The next morning, I found him asleep on the couch, still in his clothes from the day before. There was an empty beer bottle on the coffee table, which was strange because Trevor rarely drank. His phone was next to him, open to a text conversation with his brother. I knew I shouldn't look, but I did anyway. The last message from Keith read, "You deserve better than someone who makes you feel worthless. Mom and Dad's spare room is always available." Trevor's response, typed but not sent, simply said, "I know." I deleted the unsent message before he could wake up, telling myself I was protecting our marriage. Really, I was protecting myself from the reality that my husband was one text away from leaving me. Trevor set down his controller and looked at me. Really looked at me. "What happened to you?" "I got healthy. I started caring about myself. Sorry if that threatens you." The only thing that threatens me is losing my wife to some meathead who's clearly trying to sleep with her." "You're being ridiculous," I said, even though I knew he wasn't. Damon had been getting flirtier, suggesting private training sessions, offering to help me with competition prep at his apartment. Am I? When's the last time we did anything together that didn't involve the gym? When's the last time you asked about my day? When's the last time you looked at me with anything other than disappointment? I didn't have answers to any of those questions. So I did what I always did when Trevor tried to have a serious conversation. I grabbed my gym bag and left. "Where are you going?" he called after me. "It's 8 o'clock at night." "Damon's teaching a special workshop," I lied. Really, I just needed to get out of the house, away from the truth in Trevor's words. But instead of driving to the gym, I found myself parked outside Madison's apartment complex. I needed someone to tell me I wasn't crazy, that Trevor was overreacting, that wanting more from life wasn't a crime. Madison would understand. She always did. Her place was one of those luxury units with a doorman and everything. Her divorce settlement from husband number 2 had set her up nicely. She answered the door in designer loungewear, holding a glass of wine. "Brooklyn, what are you doing here?" "Trevor's being impossible," I said, pushing past her into the apartment. "He's acting like I'm some kind of monster just because I want us both to be better." "Oh, honey," she said, pouring me a generous glass of wine. "Tell me everything." I spilled it all. The fight about competing, the separate bedrooms, the way he'd accused me of emotionally cheating with Damon. Madison listened with the kind of attention she usually reserved for reality TV drama. "You know what your problem is?" she said when I finished. "You married down. Trevor was never in your league, even when you met him. And now that you're reaching your full potential, the gap is just getting wider." That's not... I loved him. I still love him. Do you, though? Or do you love the idea of being married, the stability, the house? I took a long sip of wine instead of answering. "Look," Madison continued, "I've been through 2 divorces. Want to know what I learned? Men like Trevor, they're comfort food. They're what you settle for when you're scared of being alone. But you're not that scared little girl anymore. You're hot, you're successful, you've got options." "Like Damon?" She grinned. "I was wondering when you'd bring him up. Have you seen his Instagram lately?" Before I could protest, she had her phone out, scrolling through Damon's feed. There he was, shirtless in most photos, always surrounded by beautiful women in sports bras and tiny shorts. His bio read, "Transforming lives one rep at a time." "He posted this yesterday," Madison said, showing me a video of him doing pull-ups. The caption read, "Success is a choice. Surround yourself with people who choose greatness." So, check who liked it. I looked closer. There was my username, along with a heart emoji reaction I definitely didn't remember leaving. Madison laughed at my expression. "Girl, you're already halfway out the door. Why not just rip off the Band-Aid?" "Because I'm married, because Trevor doesn't deserve this, because why? Give me one good reason to stay with someone who makes you feel guilty for improving yourself." I thought about Trevor on the couch, his shaking hands, the hurt in his eyes. Then I thought about Damon at the gym, the way he made me feel powerful and desired and special. "I can't," I admitted. Madison refilled my glass. "There's your answer, then." I stayed until almost midnight, drinking and talking and pretending like my marriage wasn't imploding while I sat there. Madison showed me profiles on dating apps, pointing out all the men who would worship someone like me. She told me stories about her post-divorce adventures, how liberating it was to not have to consider someone else's feelings all the time. By the time I left, I was drunk enough to believe she was right. Trevor was holding me back. I deserved better. I deserved someone who matched my ambition, my drive, my new lifestyle. I called Damon from my car. I know I shouldn't have been driving, but I wasn't thinking clearly about anything that night. "Brooklyn?" He sounded surprised but pleased. "Everything okay? Can I come over?" The words tumbled out before I could stop them. I need to talk to someone who understands. There was a pause. Are you sure that's a good idea? Please? Text me when you're here. I'll buzz you in. His apartment was exactly what I expected. Minimal furniture, protein powder containers on every surface, a pull-up bar in the doorway. The walls were covered with competition photos and fitness certifications. It smelled like pre-workout and male cologne. You've been drinking, he said when he opened the door. Just a little. He stepped aside to let me in, wearing sweatpants and nothing else. I tried not to stare at his abs, but that was like trying not to look at the sun during an eclipse. Want to tell me what happened? I sat on his leather couch and told him everything. Unlike Madison, he didn't interrupt or offer advice. He just listened, occasionally nodding, his hand resting on my knee in what I told myself was a comforting gesture. You know what I think? He said when I finished. I think you're scared. Of what? Of admitting what you really want. You're trying so hard to save something that's already over because you're afraid of what comes next. I'm not afraid. No. He moved closer, his hand sliding up to my thigh. Then why are you here instead of at home with your husband? I should have left then. Should have called Trevor to pick me up, admitted I was drunk and making terrible decisions. Instead, I leaned into him, letting myself feel wanted for the first time in months. Damon, I'm not going to kiss you, he said softly, not while you're still wearing that ring. But when you're ready, when you're free, I'll be here. The ring felt heavier on my finger than it ever had before. I looked down at it, this simple band Trevor had saved for 6 months to buy, and felt nothing but resentment. It was a chain, holding me back from the life I could have. I should go, I said, not moving. You could stay. Nothing has to happen. Just stay. And God help me, I almost did. I almost threw away the last shred of my marriage for a night with a man who collected women like trophies. But something, maybe the last decent part of me, made me stand up. I can't. Damon walked me to the door, his hand on my lower back the entire way. The offer stands, he said, whenever you're ready to stop living half a life. I cried the entire drive home, though I couldn't tell you why. When I got there, the house was dark except for the guest room light. Trevor was still awake, still in his separate space, still holding on to whatever was left of his dignity while I destroyed everything we'd built. When I came back 2 hours later, Trevor was sitting at the kitchen table with his laptop open. I'm done, he said simply. Done with what? This. Us. Whatever we've become. He turned the laptop toward me. On the screen was an email to a divorce attorney. I love you, Brooklyn, or I love who you used to be, but I can't watch you turn into this person anymore. You're divorcing me because I go to the gym too much? I laughed, but it sounded hollow even to me. No, I'm divorcing you because you've spent the last 6 months telling me in every possible way that I'm not good enough for you. Because you're emotionally cheating with your trainer, even if you won't admit it. Because you've become cruel. Cruel, I'm trying to help you. No, you're trying to change me into someone else. Someone who looks like Damon, acts like Damon, is Damon. And I'm never going to be that person. I don't want to be that person. So you're just giving up? Trevor closed his laptop and stood up. I've lost 27 pounds. I can run a 5K. My doctor says I'm healthier than I've been since college. The only thing I'm giving up on is trying to meet standards you keep moving every time I make progress. He went to the guest room again that night. This time I didn't even think about following him. The next morning, Trevor was gone before I woke up for spin class. When I got to the gym, Damon was there with his usual perfect smile and his usual flirty comments. But for the first time, I found myself comparing him to Trevor. Damon never asked about my work, never remembered my mom's birthday, never made me laugh until my stomach hurt. You okay? Damon asked after I nearly fell off the bike during class. You seem distracted. My husband wants a divorce, I said. Oh. His face lit up in a way that made my stomach turn. Well, you know what they say. When one door closes... That's when it hit me. Damon didn't care about me. He cared about the challenge of sleeping with a married woman. He cared about adding another trophy to his collection. Trevor was right about everything. But it was too late. When I got home, half of Trevor's things were already gone. He'd left a note saying he'd be staying with his brother in Colorado Springs until he found an apartment. I tried calling him, but he didn't answer. I sent texts apologizing, begging him to come home, promising to change. His responses were short and factual. I'll be by Thursday to get more clothes. The lawyer will contact you next week. Please don't come to my brother's house. I did anyway. Showed up on a Saturday morning with coffee and Trevor's favorite donuts from the shop we used to go to every weekend, before I decided gluten was the enemy. His brother Keith answered the door and looked at me like I was something he'd scrape off his shoe. He doesn't want to see you, Keith said flatly. Just 5 minutes, please. Brooklyn, you humiliated him. You turned him into a joke. My brother is one of the best men I know, and you made him feel worthless. So no, you don't get 5 minutes. I made mistakes, but... Mistakes? Keith laughed bitterly. You told his entire office he was a work in progress. You spent months talking about your trainer like he was God's gift while treating your husband like he was lucky you stayed with him. That's not mistakes. That's cruelty. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. You got bored. You got some attention from a younger guy with abs, and suddenly the man who loved you wasn't good enough anymore. Well, congratulations. You're free now. Go be with Captain Crunches or whatever his name is. Damon. And I don't want him. I want Trevor. No, Keith said, starting to close the door. You want the life Trevor gave you. The stability, the house, the devoted husband. You just didn't want Trevor himself. And now he knows it. The door shut in my face. I stood there holding the donuts, thinking about how Trevor used to joke that Keith was too protective. He acts like I'm still 12, Trevor would say, laughing. But Keith had seen what I'd refused to see. His brother needed protecting from me. Madison told me to let him go, that I could do better. But sitting alone in our house, surrounded by Trevor's empty spaces, I couldn't think of anyone better than the man who'd loved me even when I'd become unlovable. 2 weeks later, I ran into Trevor's coworker at the grocery store. How's Trevor doing? I asked, trying to sound casual. He's good, she said carefully. The whole office is proud of him for, everything. The weight loss? She looked confused. Well, that too, but mostly for finally standing up for himself. He seems happier. She hurried away before I could ask what she meant, but I understood. Everyone knew. Everyone had watched me belittle and humiliate my husband, and they were proud of him for leaving me. I stopped going to Damon's classes after that. Actually, I stopped going to that gym entirely. Found a new one across town where no one knew me, where Damon couldn't find me to offer his hollow condolences and thinly veiled propositions. The divorce papers came a month later. Trevor was being more than fair, only asking for what was his. He didn't want alimony, didn't want to drag things out. He just wanted to be free of me. I signed them alone at my kitchen table, crying for the first time since this whole mess started. I'd traded a man who loved me for who I was for a fantasy of who I thought I should be with. And now I had neither. The last time I saw Trevor was at the mediator's office. He'd lost more weight, but more than that, he looked peaceful, happy even. He was wearing a race shirt from some 10K he'd apparently completed. You look good, I said when we had a moment alone. Thanks, I feel good. I'm sorry, I blurted out. For everything. You didn't deserve how I treated you. He nodded slowly. I know you are, but being sorry doesn't undo the damage. Is there any chance we could try again? I've changed, I promise. I quit that gym. I'm not talking to Damon anymore. Brooklyn, he said gently, this isn't about the gym or Damon. This is about respect. And you can't just flip a switch and start respecting someone you've spent months tearing down. So that's it? That's it. I found out through mutual friends that Trevor started dating someone new about 3 months after our divorce was finalized. A teacher named Patricia who runs marathons and apparently thinks Trevor hung the moon. They do races together now. She posts pictures of them at finish lines, both of them sweaty and smiling, and the comments are full of people saying how perfect they are together. Meanwhile, I'm alone in a one-bedroom apartment in Aurora, still going to the gym, but for different reasons now. Not to impress anyone or prove anything, just to fill the empty hours where Trevor used to be. Madison stopped calling after she realized I wasn't fun to go out with anymore. Turns out being cruel to your husband isn't nearly as entertaining when you're facing the consequences. Sometimes I drive past our old house, the one where Trevor probably lives with Patricia now. The garden he started is thriving. There are 2 cars in the driveway. The life I threw away is continuing without me, better without me. Last month I worked up the courage to attend a mutual friend's birthday party, knowing Trevor might be there. I told myself I just wanted to see how he was doing, but really I was hoping for, I don't know, a sign that he missed me? That he regretted the divorce? That I hadn't completely destroyed the best thing in my life? I spent 2 hours getting ready, choosing an outfit that showed off all the work I'd put in at the gym. If he was going to see me, I wanted to look amazing. I wanted him to remember what he'd lost. He was there with Patricia, and they were everything I feared they'd be. She wasn't intimidatingly beautiful, just pretty in that natural, confident way that made my carefully applied makeup feel like armor. They moved together like partners, him getting her drinks without being asked, her touching his arm when she laughed at his jokes. The worst part was seeing him with their friend group. The same people who used to politely tolerate his presence when he was with me were now fully engaged with him. He was telling some story about their last race, and everyone was genuinely interested. No one was checking their phones or exchanging glances like they used to when he talked. "Brooklyn!" Our friend Janet spotted me hovering by the door. "I didn't know you were coming." The conversation stopped. Everyone turned to look at me, including Trevor and Patricia. His face went through several expressions before settling on polite neutrality. "Hi," I managed, walking over on legs that felt like jelly. "Hi, Brooklyn," Trevor said calmly. "This is Patricia." Patricia smiled and extended her hand. "Nice to meet you. Trevor's mentioned you." I shook her hand, noting her firm grip and the way she stood slightly protective next to Trevor. Not possessive, just protective, like she knew exactly who I was and what I'd done. "How's the training going?" I asked Trevor, desperate to fill the awkward silence. "I saw you did a half marathon?" "Full marathon, actually," Patricia corrected gently. "We both did. Trevor crushed his goal time." 4 hours and 12 minutes, someone chimed in. "Dude was a machine." Trevor looked embarrassed by the praise, the way he always did when people complimented him. But instead of deflecting or making a self-deprecating joke like he used to, he just smiled and said, "Patricia's training plan really worked." They exchanged a look that made my stomach hurt. It was the kind of look that spoke of shared goals and mutual respect, and all the things I'd never given him. "That's great," I said, my voice sounding hollow even to me. "Really great." "Are you still at Planet Fitness?" Patricia asked. There was no malice in her question, just polite interest. "Different gym now," I said quickly. "The one on Maple Street." "Oh, we run past there sometimes. Nice facility." We. Of course it was we. Everything was we with them. We run, we competed. We have this perfect relationship built on mutual respect and shared interests. The conversation moved on, flowing around me like I was a rock in a stream. I watched Trevor, looking for signs of the man who used to need my approval for everything. Instead, I saw someone comfortable in his own skin, confident without being arrogant, engaged without trying too hard. When he laughed at something Patricia whispered to him, I realized I couldn't remember the last time I'd made him laugh like that. Really laugh, not just the polite chuckle he'd give when I made fun of someone at his expense. I left after 20 minutes, making excuses about an early morning workout. Trevor said goodbye politely, Patricia said it was nice to meet me, and everyone else seemed relieved I was going. In my car, I finally let myself cry. Not pretty tears, but ugly, choking sobs that ruined my makeup and left me gasping. I'd spent so much time focused on what I thought Trevor wasn't that I'd never seen what he was. Kind, loyal, dedicated, willing to work hard for things that mattered to him. I had just never been one of those things. The next day, I deleted my dating apps. Stopped going to bars with Madison, who was already on husband number 3. Quit following fitness influencers who made me feel like nothing was ever enough. Started seeing a therapist who didn't let me get away with blaming everyone else for my choices. "Why do you think you were so focused on Trevor's weight?" she asked in one of our sessions. "Because I wanted him to be healthy," I said automatically. "Was he unhealthy?" I thought about it, really thought about it. No, his doctor said he was fine, better than fine actually. Then what was it really about? The answer came slowly. Painfully. Control. Image. I wanted a husband who looked a certain way because I thought it said something about me. Like having a fit husband meant I was worth more somehow. And now? Now, I see couples at the gym all the time. Some are both fit, some aren't. The ones that last are the ones who actually like each other, who support each other, who don't tear each other down in front of their friends. Like you did to Trevor. Like I did to Trevor. She leaned back in her chair. What would you say to him if you could? That I'm sorry. That he deserved better. That I hope Patricia gives him everything I couldn't. That I wasted years of both our lives because I was too shallow and insecure to see what I had. Would you want him back? Yes, I admitted. But not because I love him. Because I love what he represented. Stability, devotion. Someone who would put up with anything, and that's exactly why he was right to leave. The truth of it sat between us, ugly and undeniable. I didn't want Trevor back because I'd realized his worth. I wanted him back because being alone forced me to face my own worthlessness. And the worst part? I know Trevor was right. I had become cruel. I'd let the gym and Damon and Madison convince me that Trevor wasn't enough, when really, I was the one who wasn't enough. Not enough to see what I had, not enough to appreciate it, not enough to deserve it. So now I have my perfect body, and my empty apartment, and my $45 gym membership. Trevor has Patricia and races and a life filled with the kind of love I was too shallow to give him. He got healthy and happy. I just got what I deserved. Alone.